A few days ago, we took a look at the Nord5 HD frame, the actual foundation for my upcoming 5-inch build. Well, today we have all our parts here, so if you're looking for a premium drone, this is the video for you. So with that said, let's begin. Okay, so we have all our parts here. And before we get to the workbench, let's talk about all the components and parts for this premium 5-inch build. Starting off with the frame, we have the Nord FPV Nord5 HD frame. I did a full review on this, talking about the specifications, all the advantages of this drone. But this frame was designed with the purpose of reducing resonance and vibration, as well as having a nice, clean, and simplistic look to it. Hence, it's a good candidate for a premium 5-inch drone build. Now, moving on to the heart of any drone is the ESC and flight controller stack. Today, we're using the Mamba F722 app flight control. This is a very premium stack. This thing has the ability to control 8 motors. It has Wi-Fi built into it. We have 3 amp BEC for both 5 and 9 volts. There's a multitude of things on here. This is a really good stack. It has a barometer in here. Really premium stack for a good and premium drone. This thing should do more than I expect for this. Moving along to the powertrain for this drone, we have the Emax Eco 2 motors. These are the 2306 1900 kV. So this is going to be a 6S build. And these are a little bit larger than your typical 5-inch drone. Typically, you'll see around 2206 or 2207 motors on here. These are just slightly bigger and should give us the torque needed to get out of a situation if we need to punch out. So hopefully these motors are going to be adequate for this frame, and hopefully we can get some decent battery life out of it since they're just a little bit larger. Now, as far as visuals, I've had a slew of options here to go with this premium build, but since this is gonna be a premium 5-inch drone, we had to get the latest and greatest. We are going with the DJI O3 Air unit. Now, I've also done a first review on this as well, but this should complement this drone very nicely, especially for a freestyle drone. You wanna fly far, you wanna fly behind obstacles. This will give you the best performance for that. And this is probably another highlight of this build. We're now coming down to kind of the accessories for this build. The first thing here is the antenna and receiver. Today we're gonna go with the Express LRS receiver. This has really good range and really good low latency, so this should be a good match for a modern drone like this. Next thing we have here is a GPS receiver or antenna. Now, the reason I went with the GPS is because this is gonna be a premium build. We wanna have every available option to us. And for a security blanket, this is gonna be a very expensive build. We're gonna have DJI Air unit in here. We're gonna have expensive motors, a pretty expensive stack on here, and the potential to have also a GoPro on here. So we're talking about a really expensive build. And in case we lose a link or something were to happen, we can find the coordinates of our drone or have returned to home. Now, this one here is a little bit special because it also has a built-in compass into here. So we're gonna have a barometer, we're gonna have a magnetometer for compass, and we're gonna have GPS. So we're gonna have all the feature set into this one drone. Now, last but not least, we have our propellers on here. We have our Gemfan Hurricane propellers, and we have the nice orange color in here to match the theme, the Nord FPV theme. They have a nice little orange color on here, and this should complement this very, very nicely. So these are all the components for today's build. I'll leave links to all these down below. So with that said, let's head over to the bench and get this build started. Okay, so we're here at the workbench. We have all our equipment here. We have our frame, our flight controller, our motors, everything is here ready to go. And the first thing I want to do here is mock up my flight controller and route my wirings. Now, this is very crucial for this build. This is a very clean and aesthetically pleasing build, but the way it accomplishes this is by hiding the wires and routing them in a way where you can't see them. And that means you have to think about where you want to route these wires before you assemble your frame kit. So for me, I will have to disassemble this a little bit so I can route my wires for my VTX. So we're just gonna remove the top plate here. I just have 2 screws holding this together. All right, and as you can see here, we have this little sandwich plate in here. It's gonna be really hard to see, but there's a little tunnel in here and you wanna route that wire under here. So I will have to remove this sandwich plate here. I've already released those screws right here and I wanna keep them in place, but you can see this little tunnel, throw it upside down here. It's a little pathway straight through here, and that's where your wire for your camera slash VTX is gonna go through from the camera, going backwards to the VTX. The DJI Air unit obviously comes with the camera mounted to the VTX, so we have to remove the screws on here to get access to these pins, and then we can route the camera through this tunnel right here. Now, Nord FPV also has this little TPU mount here to mount your VTX. and that gives it a really good secure place mounting solution for this. Now, if you don't have this mounting solution, which you can print obviously, but if you don't have this, I've done some experiments where these holes here for your VTX should align up with the bottom of your VTX on here. So you just have to have a little bit longer screws or bolts, and it should go through here. But a lot of manufacturers now are going with a TPU solution, which is a little bit softer and give this thing some more protection. All right, that wasn't so bad. These screws are tiny. And here's your MIPI cable. Now I will try to pry this off very gently. Yep, that worked out pretty good. And I'm just gonna wire this through here, as you can see, just a little. And I think that's all I need for this, honestly. I don't think I have anything going from front to back. I think that's the only thing I need. I'm trying to think. Everything else can go underneath and come through here and go to the actual stack right here. Let's put these bolts back in. All right. And now we can start with the stack here if we want to. Okay, now that we have our gummies in both our ESC and flight control, it's time to mount this up and see if this thing fits as far as orientation. Now, I initially want to put this flight control and ESC set up this way, just because it makes sense for the orientation of the flight controller, because this is the front of the drone. You can see the arrow going this way. But as I saw earlier, it's gonna be really hard to fit this capacitor back here by the battery terminals and still fit my VTX in there. It's just not, this capacitor is really big. Now I gotta, so this is gonna be impossible to do in this orientation. This drone was designed to have the battery terminals in the front. There's more space for that. You have all this space here behind the camera for your capacitor, and then that shouldn't be a problem at all actually. Let's show you this way. Although the arrow is forward and this is correctly, now the plug for my ESC is in the back. So now I have to rotate this in this orientation. And that's fine because I can easily fix that in Betaflight, just change the orientation. The arrow is just there as a reference, but now I can plug this into the ESC and now I have space for my capacitor. Now this introduces one more complexity, all right? And that's supposed to go to your VTX. All right, so that's how it should work. Can it reach? It can reach the back, but not the way the air unit is supposed to design. The plug for this control is in the back, so it's not long enough to reach. So what's gonna happen, the end result is that I'm gonna have to extend this DJI cable. I mean, I could just snip it off and solder it to the board. I don't like that. I like simplicity. If I have to repair this, that's when the plug, unplug. And that's what DJI did with this new air unit. They have a plug, instead of soldering it to the air unit, then they just went with the plug type system. So now that we know what is gonna work where, I think it's time to do some soldering, guys. Probably not the cleanest thing, but hey, that's gonna work, I think. Let's take a look and see if it's gonna fit. I'm okay with that. Hopefully there's no interference. That looks a lot better. All right, so we have the length right. I think we're all happy with this. We're gonna proceed. All right, that looks okay. Let's do the positive first. All right. Okay, so we have our power leads to the ESC. Looks really good. All right, I'm just gonna put some tin on the rest of the ESC pads here for the motors, so I don't have to do it later once this thing is in the drone. All right, this looks good. We have solder on all of them. Now our attention goes to the flight controller, and we have to do two things. The first is the receiver, and the second thing is our GPS. So I have the schematics right here. TX1 RX1 is the one dedicated for the receiver. TX RX5 for the GPS. Let's start off with the receiver. I have my Express LS receiver. All right, so here's my receiver. It's gonna be back here, obviously underneath. Let's do it. These are already tin, so they're a little short though. Yeah, it'll work. 5 volts, let's do it. there you go. Our receiver's good to go. That's gonna go down there. Okay, this all looks good. All right, I need to extend my wire for my DJI Air unit. All right, I'm gonna extend this to my harness here so that it can reach from the front all the way to the back of the camera here. Just extend this, it's pretty simple, just snip it, put some more wires, and we should be good to go. Okay, so I've made my extension here for my VTX wire. It's a little bit longer, doesn't look the prettiest, but it's gonna be buried under this anyway. So we're gonna have to remove this plate one more time and then put it through this tunnel, the same tunnel we use for the actual camera. So let's do it. Hopefully it can accommodate it. I think it can. Put this to this side. All right. I'm just gonna tack one or two of them just to see where we're at. I think we'll be good though. All right, there's your cable management. That's how it's gonna look. All right, I'm just gonna put some flux on my receiver. Here we go. This one should be easy, ground and voltage. Let's do the ground and voltage one first. Those two are good. All right, let's do RX. All right, that's a perfect bond. GPS time. Woo! Okay, so let's install our harness for our GPS. I have my schematic here, both for the flight controller and the actual GPS module. And typically GPS antennas have 4 pin outs. This one has a 6-pin pin out because this one has a mag compass built into it as well. So I need to make sure I have those wired properly, and hopefully that mag compass can give us some additional features once we're flying our drone. Okay, so the first two is ground and 5 volt. That's pretty easy. That's gonna be these two right here. Voltage right. All right. And then the last one is SC, and that's the furthest to the right. My plan is to wrap this up. I have some EMI tape here, so this one here is good for like grounding and shielding. And we're gonna see if we have any difference in performance with that tape versus not having it in there. Time to add these motor wires to the motors, and I think we can button this whole thing up. Take a look at these nice, shiny, beautiful motors from Emax. These things are nice looking. Oh yeah, this is gonna look really nice. And we're just gonna measure it, cut. All right, let's tin these bad boys. All right. All right, that's okay. All right, let's tin these 3 wires. All right. It's tough. Let's just get these 2 other done. Okay, so we have all our motors soldered onto the ESC, so that's really good. Next thing now is to actually put the feet for the motors. Since we have them in here, we want to secure them. Now the bolts that came with the actual motors are good for this drone without the feet, but with the feet it's a little bit thicker. Luckily for us, Nord5 does include the longer bolts in their kit. So we're just gonna use those instead, and that should work out pretty nicely. All right, awesome. Okay, so we have all our nylon pieces on the feet of the drone. So this is all done underneath. Looks pretty good. I think we're almost done here and ready to install our flight controller. In fact, let's just do it. So here's the front. Remember, we have the arrow facing back, so it's the opposite of what you think. Actually, let's plug this in first. I want to plug the VTX port in first because that's going to be the hardest thing to get to once I have this in here. Perfect. All right, so that's in, and it should go in just like this. All right, that looks good. Let's put the plug from the flight controller to the ESC in. All right, perfect. All right, we're gonna route this through here. That's gonna go to our GPS right here in the back. Let's put this cover in the back here so these wires aren't just flopping around. All right, our receiver also goes in here. So we have a lot of stuff going in here. All right, so two things I have to do before I put the cover on. I need to attach the antenna, and then I need to put the shrink wrap on it. There it is. Why is it so hard? All right, put the heat gun on, and we can shrink wrap this over the antenna. All right, that looks good. Put this one in here as well. Okay, here's the standoff. All right, that's obviously holding the back, and in the front we'll have, all right, no wires are binding back there. All right, should we do the front or the back first? I think we should do the back first. So let's get that VTX in here, make sure everything works. All right, so another problem I see here is this. I gotta get this through here. This doesn't look flexible enough. Now I bought this TPU here for the Cadix Vista. So this antenna hole here is a little bit smaller than I expected. Since I bought this, they have made some replacement TPU parts for the actual O3 air unit, which is what we're using today. So I might have to just bore this hole out a little bit bigger. Okay, so let's see if this works. I made this a little bit bigger. We have to remove the top piece again, just like the other part. And this one has two antennas on here, so it's gonna be a little interesting trying to get this UFL off. All right, perfect. So I'm gonna try to force it through this way. All right, it went through. Let's see if I can put this piece in there, and it took it. Wow. All right, time to reattach antenna 1, antenna 2. Cool. Wow. All right, let's put this puppy back on. A little TPU mount to this drone. So this just slots in here. And that turns into one complete piece. I like it. I gotta put the MIPI cable in there, and then we gotta put that other one in there. I think the MIPI cable is a little bit harder, so I think that's what we're gonna do next. That means I'll have to take this off one more time to get access to the MIPI cable. Yikes. All right, let's try it. I mean, it looks like it's in there. All right, MIPI cable is in. All right. All right, I have my cable here for the drone, and it's oriented the correct way, so let's just plug this in. This is the last connection here for this box. All right, yay, we plugged it in. I think this UFL is gonna have to bend a little bit. And it did bend, okay, fair enough. And then I can put one of these in here. That looks okay. Time to put the side plate on here. All right, and then we can put the back one over here, close this piece up. It's looking like a drone, guys. DJI. All right, so again, exciting here. It's looking really nice. Okay, so we have the side plates on here, but I actually forgot to put the screws on here. So for the flight control, we're gonna have these nuts on here, and that should hold everything in place. Hopefully I can get it in there with the side plates intact. Okay, all right, I'm gonna torque these down. It's gonna be not the most precise. And then the bottom should not spin because it's actually threaded into the actual frame. Now I'll check this over a period of time, but you don't want to over torque these because that will introduce vibrations into the flight controller and affect your flight performance. All right, that looks pretty good. Wow. All right, that looks like a Pretty cool setup, looking more and more like a drone. All right, so now onto the biggest piece here, and that's gonna be the camera. All right, so this is gonna be a little tricky only because, let's get those screws out. Let's try to remove these bolts from the camera. And then the goal here is to put this in there. One. Let's see how she goes. These bolts look too short. These might work. These look like the ones from the kit. This might be the ones. Let's go with the top or the middle. Let's go with the top one first. Here goes nothing. All right, can I can barely, okay. All right, we got a connection between the two. Oh my gosh. All right, here we go, left side. All right, we have a connection. All right, let's see if I can place this in here the way it is supposed to go. They have these little locking mechanisms down here. All right, we got the right side in. Let's try the left side. It's close, but that's tight. Don't forget this is a bigger camera, so I'm trying to get this thing lined up into the holes. All right, we just did it. I'm gonna put the top plate on and see if these holes line up. All right, and let's see if I can get the top plate to fit into these grooves with the camera. That's gonna be the challenge today. Perfect. I'm gonna put a bolt in there. We have a few right here and just secure that in place. Now the back ones looks good too. Let's put one back here. All right. I laugh and chuckle, but it almost didn't go in there. All right, so with the remainder of our bolts, we can put this puppy together. All right, I think this is looking okay. So I just gotta find one more bolt. We got spares around, but let's say one for right here. But here it is, Nord5 HD. And this camera looks okay. I'm now concerned that am I gonna see standoffs when I fly? There's only one way to find out. Look at this thing, guys. Beautiful. All right, so we're all assembled here. We have the top plate on here. Everything looks really, really nice. We're gonna adjust these cameras here a little bit later. For right now, let's install the propellers. Now I have these Gemfan Hurricane propellers on here. We're gonna go with a props out configuration. I guess you can go props in or props out if you want to. So here we go, that looks good. Nice. Perfect. Come on, you can do it. There it is. That looks amazing, guys. Holy cow, it looks good. Oh man. So in the looks department, it's just as I expected, probably even better. Beyond that, how it flies, how this O3 air unit captures the image. Those are all things I haven't experienced before. Let's torque down these prop nuts. This thing is complete, guys. All right, looks really good. This thing is pretty nice. It looks really attractive, guys. This color scheme is really good looking. I can't even lie about that. And the feature set of this drone is gonna be amazing, guys. Just some last minute things here, loose ends here. We're just gonna try to tape up these a little bit later. So make sure the motor wires are out of the way of the propellers, and it makes it look a little bit neater. That's one thing. As far as the back here, we have this Express LS antenna. It's in a good position right now, but it's not that secure, so we want to secure that. As well as the GPS antenna, we have the connection right here. And those things are not available right now for me. I have to print that out. I have my 3D printer right there, and I have to get the file, print that out, and then we'll attach it to the back and make this more secure and neater. So this drone build here took a little bit longer than I expected. There's some unexpected things in here. Before I do these builds, I try to play it in my head over and over again before I start it so it can have a smooth, easy build. but this thing here did take some time, guys, but hopefully it's gonna pay off in the long run. Hopefully everything here works out. Next thing to do here is to flash this whole thing, set it up. We have to flash the actual Express LRS receiver. We have to activate and bind our DJI-O3 Air unit. We have to flash or update the firmware on the flight controller, as well as put a tune and a CLI in here. And then we should be good to go. So still a few more steps before we go. So in the next video, we're gonna go to the computer, flash all this stuff, and then go for a flight, a maiden flight, and see how this thing here behaves. So what do you guys think about this frame kit? Does this thing look pretty good to you? Is it attractive? Do you think it's gonna fly well? Hopefully it flies well. A lot of premium products on here. I'm also excited to put the GPS in the back as well and see how this goes. If not, if there's space over here, we'll try to put it in the back as well. This might be good as well if there's enough battery space here, but we'll see how that plays out. Wow, okay, one more thing. This thing feels kind of beefy, very heavy. Let's wait before we go. I have my scale right here. Cleared it out. All right, let's see how much this thing weighs. All right, 433 grams with this setup. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, not bad. All right. We're gonna fly this thing with the 6S battery, numerous sizes, and see how it goes. But for right now, I'm happy with that. This looks good. Whew! All right, guys. Thanks again for watching another one of my build videos. This thing took a little bit longer to make as well as edit. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.